Spider-Man No Way Home has arrived, and after watching the film multiple times already, I think it was able to do one central thing right that the previous Holland films weren't able to accomplish as effectively. Along with all the nostalgia and fan-centric elements, primarily it felt like a Spider-Man movie that finally explored Peter Parker in the way it should have done in the last film. In this video essay, I'm going to be discussing what Spider-Man No Way Home did right, and why this sets up the next Holland films as ones that, surprisingly, I'm actually looking forward to. This upload will contain spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen No Way Home yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. You can also check out my spoiler-free review, which is already available on my channel, if you want to know my thoughts without having any big plot details discussed. But if you want to keep up to date on any of my content surrounding Spider-Man, the MCU, DC, and other upcoming films, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my video essay on what Spider-Man No Way Home did right. So when Spider-Man Homecoming released in 2017, I was ready for a new take on the web-slinger, one that gave us a deeper dive into what makes the hero who he is, and a further analysis of the boy behind that mask. The first film did of course want to take that route, but one which was also quite purposely shallow. He was a Spidey that just liked his new suit and wanted to do good, but was quite riddled with the problems of growing into that role and living up to his so-called mentor, Tony Stark. I quite like Homecoming for what it is, and while it was not the take on Spider-Man that I truly wanted to see, I was ready to see the development over time and get that deeper take on the character, along with all the fun and escapism we knew we would be getting. But then came Far From Home, a film that, while interesting in its new landscape and primary villain, didn't really push the character over the line, and still had Peter relying on his tech and the help of others. It was a safe movie that didn't really challenge us to understand what makes this Peter Parker tick, or get to the core of the character by actually challenging him physically, mentally, or meaningfully so. It just gave us the formulaic MCU film we've been used to seeing from a company who hasn't really aimed at taking their characters and stories in intriguing or impactful directions. The previous interpretations, while subject to having equally flawed films, had much stronger takes, with that of Spider-Man 1 and 2, and even the first Amazing Spider-Man film. Tobey Maguire gave us an inspirational journey, a character that can't quite work out being Peter Parker while being Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield showed how Parker can be both funny and tragic all at the same time to quite a successful degree. Tom Holland, on the other hand, gave us the Spider-Man who just found joy in being the character and was really just an escape from all of the teenage problems we've all faced. But in my opinion, I've wanted to see this character actually challenged, given a conflict that makes us truly connect emotionally to his interpretation of the character. And while it took way too long for this to happen, I was relieved after watching Spider-Man No Way Home because they finally did just that. Jon Watts has finally taken the boy joyously swinging around the city and doing backflips on buildings and challenged him into growing up. Now, it's key to note that this film isn't one that is emotionally transcending a genre or for some miracle escaping the formula of an MCU film. No, it's not. If No Way Home does suffer in one department, it's under this very formula, presenting so many Easter eggs, callback quotes, and references to previous outings, and in result, the true heart of the story, which is Peter Parker becoming an adult, can seem muddled in its tone at times. And the first act of this movie doesn't help by keeping that central formula in my mind. But one moment does eventually come along, takes all of that by the scruff of the neck and says, we need to make a true Spider-Man movie. And that moment comes in the takeover of the Goblin, the fight that follows, and the eventual aftermath, which is the tragic death of Aunt May. Now, I haven't loved the MCU's take on Aunt May, and they haven't really used her character to the inspirational heights that they could have. But rather than try and make a failing component work, they used this death to fuel everything that Peter is feeling. It gave him anger, it gave him a sense of wanting vengeance, it gave him sadness, and it ultimately was a statement that there's responsibility on his shoulders. The responsibility when things go wrong, or when he faces an extreme loss, to do the right thing, to keep fighting the good fight and not to lose his spirit completely. The rest of the movie from this point on is quite a different one. Yes, it has the MCU elements and stuff that I personally find quite uninteresting, but the main focus from here is on the greater stuff. The things that challenge Peter to finally grow up and take decisions into his own hands, or work with people rather than under them. It's much more ambitious this way in its storytelling, and when you have character development that can be as emotionally strong as No Way Home transitions into, it's a direct lesson to put the MCU of it all to the sidelines in order to feel it. In its ending, it asks us what it means when a superhero who truly cares for someone loses them, and what extent they will go to in reaction, and what lengths they will then go to protect the others they care about or form bonds with. It is quintessential Spider-Man, and director Jon Watts gave us essentially the ultimate celebration of what makes Peter Parker the famous web slinger. Yes, there's cool tech like the controlling of Doc Ock's tentacles using the Iron Spider suit, and science projects that are used to find a way to bring these villains back to their normal selves, but all of that aids the more emotional story arc of Peter. Now, it's not the best Spider-Man film ever made, and it has moments that are quite awkwardly written, like Doctor Strange becoming a sort of plot device, and editing that places extremely funny scenes right after tragic ones, but the central arc of this story isn't just about beating a difficult threat. It's about Peter overcoming his guilt and taking responsibility as a true friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. While hunting the famous villains down, instead of taking the straightforward and simple option, Peter Parker decides to do the right thing. And while this again makes Doctor Strange look quite misunderstood in his faulty actions, it's not his movie, and No Way Home clearly indicates this, placing him in the mirror dimension and leaving him there for most of the film's runtime. In this entry, Peter's actions have consequences for him and the people he cares about. And after everything he's done and all the people he's saved, the movie clearly tells us that he's just a boy, and his resulting actions can at times be quite reckless or out of touch. The moment where he's about to beat Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin to death is one that stands out to me personally. You feel the weight of every rage-filled punch and how he would quite easily kill this man for what he's done. But with the help and guidance of the other Spider-Men, he becomes the figure he's supposed to be and once again makes the right choice. While I found that there was a lot of nostalgia here and some even being quite poorly done, the key moments are delivered excellently, and it all puts in place a guide for the rest of the film, and that is Tom's Spider-Man. Tobey and Andrew aren't the focus, they are there to aid and push Holland's take in the right direction so he can truly stand on his own 2 feet and become that loved version of the character. And Tobey and Andrew know what he feels and what he is going through. It's not another case of replacing Uncle Ben with Tony Stark because of the MCU interconnectivity that we constantly need. It's Spider-Men who truly understand that mantle and want to help a Spider-Boy become a Spider-Man. The heart of the nostalgia essentially fuels this new Spider-Man into his own presence, and this is the thing that by the end truly takes the film in a much better direction. It makes us feel like the true height of Holland's interpretation is yet to come, and that the next films will basically be a clean slate to tell new stories with this grown-up version of Holland's character. And at the heart of it all is Holland's elevating performance as both Peter and Spider-Man. The film and his performance give the character emotional weight, and his chemistry with MJ and Ned is more real this time around. It isn't just played for laughs, as you feel a more gentle side of that, one which all comes back to the simple matter that Peter may never truly be with these people again after the events of this film. He can never get back that connection because they all forget those memories. By doing this, No Way Home goes back to the comic book roots of this character and presents it successfully within the cinematic medium. As I said, it's not a perfect film, and its filmmaking is quite formulaic and has similar beats of an MCU endeavour. But its emotional core and direct focus on making Peter Parker into a true Spider-Man means that this particular take shines brighter than other entries, and just as crucially, it sets up the future of Holland's films to be rooted in adultship struggles. Stories that aren't the same as every other, and ones that have a purpose to be told. I hope I'm right about this going forward, but it is a very important step in the right direction. But that was my video discussing why I believe Spider-Man No Way Home pulled off the central character and has led him in a direction that can be explored even deeper in future movies. This latest film feels like the most confident outing of Spider-Man in the MCU so far, and while the filmmaking, certain moments of CGI and formulaic tones make their way into this latest entry, it doesn't hold down the greater strength that has been brought to the character. No Way Home gives us the entire range of Spider-Man movies while presenting us with a character that has been set up to be all his own. After 2 watches, my rating has gone up to an 8 out of 10, and I'm interested to see how the film will compare after many more rewatches into the future. But I'm also fascinated with how they will go about making the next movies, which hopefully will have even more impactful storylines and emotional beats within. We'll have to see, but let me know down below in the comment section what you personally thought of Spider-Man No Way Home, alongside whether you agree with the points I have raised in this video. For lots more content surrounding Spider-Man in the future and upcoming blockbuster films, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.